Here's what you need to know about Wilkins versus United States, case number 21. 1164, argued before the Supreme Court of the United States on November 30th, 2022, and decided on March 28th, 2023. In this case, the court was asked to decide whether a claim under the Quiet Title Act is jurisdictionally barred by the Act's 12-year statute of limitations provision, 28 U.S.C. section 2409A-G. The court held that the statute of limitations provision is a non-jurisdictional claims processing rule. Here's how the case ended up before the Supreme Court. The petitioners, Larry Stephen Wilkins and Jane Stanton, live along a road in rural Montana, which runs for about a mile through their private property. The United States has permission, called an easement, for use of the road. The government claims the easement allows it to make the road available for public use. Petitioners disagree, however, contending that the easement has led to intrusion in their lives, with strangers trespassing, stealing from their properties, and shooting Wilkins's cat. In the lower courts, petitioners argued that the easement, granted to the United States by their predecessors in interest, does not allow access to the general public, but instead requires the government to maintain and patrol the road. Notably, petitioners came into possession of their properties along the road in 1991 and 2004. In 2018, petitioners brought suit under the Quiet Title Act. Thereafter, the government moved to dismiss the action, maintaining that the Act's 12-year statute of limitations had expired. In response, petitioners argued that the time limit contained in the Act was not jurisdictional. The district court agreed with the government and dismissed the case for lack of subject matter jurisdiction. The Ninth Circuit affirmed, holding that the court had already interpreted Section 2409A-G as jurisdictional in a 1983 case, Block v. North Dakota. The decision deepened a divide among the courts of appeals on the issue, so the Supreme Court granted cert to resolve the split. Before the Supreme Court, petitioners maintained that Section 2409A-G is a non-jurisdictional claims processing rule, whereas the government argued that the provision is jurisdictional. Here's how the court resolved the dispute. The court began its analysis by explaining the difference between jurisdictional rules, on the one hand, and non-jurisdictional claim processing rules, on the other. The latter category was designed to promote the orderly progress of litigation by requiring that the parties take certain procedural steps at certain specified times. This category also includes a range of threshold requirements that claimants must complete or exhaust before filing a lawsuit. Jurisdictional rules, by contrast, are categorical limits on the classes of cases a court may entertain. Although jurisdictional bars may be raised at any time, and courts have a duty to consider them sua sponte, that is, on their own motion or initiative, the court noted that it will treat a procedural requirement as jurisdictional only if Congress clearly states that it is. Under the court's clear statement precedent, traditional rules of statutory construction must plainly show that Congress imbued a procedural bar with jurisdictional consequences. Moreover, the court acknowledged that most time bars are, in fact, non-jurisdictional. With this precedent in view, the court next analyzed the text and context of the statute. As to the statute's text, Section 2409A-G states only that an action shall be barred unless it is commenced within 12 years of the date upon which it accrued. The court explained that this text speaks only to a claim's timeliness, and its mundane statute of limitations language says only what every time bar, by definition, must, that after a certain time a claim is barred. Accordingly, the court found that the text does not contain a clear statement that Congress intended to treat the provision as jurisdictional. This view is also supported by the statute's context. The court explained that Congress's separation of a filing deadline from a jurisdictional grant indicates that the time bar is not jurisdictional. Here, the Quiet Title Act's jurisdictional grant is in 28 U.S.C. section 1346 F, whereas the statute of limitations provision is in section 2409A G. Tellingly, the court found that nothing conditions the jurisdictional grant on the limitations period or otherwise links those separate provisions. Finally, the court rejected the cases marshaled by the government to support its argument that Section 2409AG is jurisdictional, because in the court's view, none of the decisions definitively interpreted the statute as such. The court likewise disagreed with the government's argument that Congress had acquiesced to a jurisdictional interpretation of the statute. The court reasoned that there was no definitive judicial interpretation to which Congress could have acquiesced, and that the mere existence of a decision employing the term jurisdiction, without elaboration, does not show Congress adopted that view. Based on this reasoning, the court reversed the judgment of the Court of Appeals and remanded the case for further proceedings. Justice Sotomayor delivered the opinion of the court, in which Justices Kagan, Gorsuch, Kavanaugh, Barrett, and Jackson joined. Justice Thomas filed a dissenting opinion in which Chief Justice Roberts and Justice Alito joined. Justice Thomas's dissent reasoned that the Quiet Title Act's statute of limitations functions as a condition on a waiver of sovereign immunity, and that the court had long construed such conditions on waivers of sovereign immunity as jurisdictional. Justice Thomas also maintained that the court had repeatedly characterized the Act's time bar as jurisdictional.